Take a seat. We'd like to begin. It is 6 o'clock. I meant it's 6:30. I'm fired up. Okay. This is a public meeting of the School Board of the West Bend Joint School District Number 1. More than 24 hours prior to the meeting, notice of the time, place, date, and subject matter of this meeting was posted in each school building, the entrance doors at the Education Service Center, and at the West Bend Community Memorial Library. A copy was also sent to the Daily News, WBKV, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and other media sources that have requested notice of our meetings. Deb, can you please confirm this was posted properly?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. I'm looking for an approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We will now have our presentation of the budget by our Finance Director, Andy Sarno. Board members are going to move to the front row so that we're able to see the screens.
You guys okay, comfortable? Thank you so much for the opportunity to present some financial information regarding the 2019-20 budget. The school year is upon us. School has begun. We are actually just about a quarter of the way into our fiscal year per state statute. This is something that does typically proceed at this time. And I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn to continue the meeting outside. Beautiful day, but why are we here? Why are we at this meeting? Statute 65.90 essentially discusses that we will hold this meeting, connect with the public, allow for an opportunity to receive input as well as share the information that's included in this information, as well as a supplemental handout that I hope you grabbed when entering the area. This is the 100th meeting of the electors that will be pertaining to the annual meeting, so it is somewhat relevant as we're a fairly established school district. A little bit of housekeeping items that I'd like to share tonight. So the information at the meeting, due to the publication of the meeting, information that needs to be gathered and assembled prior to this, the information that's been included in the packet as well as what I'm presenting is it's as of Monday, September 9th. So that's the timing of that. Information has changed since then. And then as well as we talk about what will happen next, which is October 28th, the information will probably change just a little bit more because we're still making assumptions, we're making calculations, calculated estimates. As I'd mentioned, an updated and final budget will be brought forward for board approval on October 28th. That will include not only the budget, but also the levy, which is a dollar amount, as well as the mill rate, which is a percentage or a taxation rate. I'd like to point out that the budget is a living document. It's meant to be amended and flow essentially with the needs. So between now and the end of the fiscal year, most likely, it's highly probable that an amended budget would be brought forward for board approval. Just wanted to point that out, is that things change. Often the spending plan, as we grow and learn and evolve, that spending plan changes with it. I have this presentation, but then also, as I'd mentioned, there is a handout at the back. I call it the shell, which is an 11 by 17 page. On the front cover, we have an agenda for both this meeting as well as the annual meeting, which follows at 7:30 or after this meeting. It talks about a little bit of information about who we are, West Bend Joint Number 1 School District, who we are, kind of what we're about. This is information that's found on our website. There are on the inside, if you open it, 5 graphs that I think are relevant tonight. It talks about how we calculate our total revenue, talks about the large 2 portions of our revenue, and then as well what that means to an average property owner, because those revenues that we could receive from our local area are through property taxes. And then finally, I have on the back page is a graphic of our continuous improvement plan. I'll talk about that just a little bit as it relates to how we make decisions and how we proceed with spending money. Inside the insert itself, inside of that shell, I have several handouts. Again, I have an agenda. Just want to make sure everybody's very clear on the proceedings of tonight, the different components of the two meetings. Our 4 resolutions are on the back side of that agenda, so that's going to be a part of the next meeting. We do have procedures for the meeting, so these are setting some of the expectations of the meeting and really what we're allowed to talk about. I do have the budget hearing publication. So that's a two-sided document broken out by fund, has 3 years worth of information. That's part 2 of my presentation. I'm going to be sharing that in line item as we move forward. I want to make sure that that's really a big piece of this meeting. It was published on Saturday, September 14th, as well as last Wednesday, the 18th. And then finally, and again, this is preliminary information as of September 8th, a calculation of the revenue limit. So it's just a 2-page document provided by the DPI right now. And again, there's a lot of assumptions, a lot of calculations that we're estimating at this point in time. So we have called the meeting to order. We have approved the agenda. The overview and the common questions, that was really my opening, is just kind of sharing what we're talking about and whatnot tonight, the information that we're going to be sharing. So I will proceed with the actual proposed budget with this presentation and then move out to that budget publication handout that I just referred to. After that, then we will have a hearing, which is for comments and questions specific to the budget. So as it relates to how we're receiving our money, how we're spending our money, specific to that topic. And then after that, there would be a motion to adjourn by the board once we are complete with the meeting. I do like to share the mission and vision of the district. Our mission is preparing all students for college readiness and career success. Our vision is excellence for all. We do have budget drivers. There was a discussion earlier this spring prior to adopting a tentative or a preliminary budget, but we use those budget drivers in helping what I would call some of the larger overarching financial strategies. Specific, though, to the mission and vision, that's really what the district uses in order to make decisions and how the spending plan aligns with our strategic plan. I'm going to jump into the graphs, and again, there's 5 graphs on the inside of your shell, so each one of these is one of those components. So the September membership FTE, so this is where we actually count all of the students who reside within our school district, not necessarily our enrollment, but actually those who reside in the district. It includes our third Friday count, which was actually recent Friday, and then as well it does include our summer school enrollment from the preceding, so the summer that we just had, that number as well. So as we're taking a look, what I'd like to point out, and this is something that we've seen as a trend, we do have declining enrollment. There is a provision in the revenue limit that allows us a little bit of flexibility with maintaining some of our revenues, since we are already in a quarter of the way into the fiscal year, but we do have declining enrollment. We're graduating primarily more seniors than we're receiving as 4K and 5K students. That is a trend that we believe has stabilized, that we're now seeing consistent 4K and 5K numbers. So as those larger classes graduate through our system, we will see at some point, hopefully we believe, based on some projections, a fairly flat enrollment at some point in time. Our property valuation, why this is important is I call it the one-legged stool. How much revenue we receive from the state is primarily driven from our property value. So as you can see from this graphic, you can see the tail end of some of the recession that we had at the end of the last decade. And then since then, we have seen pretty steady growth, fairly significant growth within our property value. So we're now over $5 billion of property value amongst all of our municipalities, the city of West Bend, the villages, the townships. all of our school district is a little bit over $5 billion, $5.2 billion. We did see a 7.15%. This will be finalized in early October by the Department of Revenue, but we did see a 7.15% increase in our values. That is outpacing the state. It was shared with me through Baird, our financial advisors. A state average right now is approximately 5.5% to 6%. And what also is interesting about this is we believe, and this is based on information I received from the county, is that this truly is growth. It's not reassessments in higher values. It truly is growth within our school district. We don't know what the future is going to look like. It's highly dependent on the economy and other variables. So I typically don't project this out with too much certainty. But I do want to share that we do have that current growth that we've seen for the last few years. General state aid. So this is one of the two areas which we receive a large portion of our funding. It's based on a three-tier calculation. And I'd love to have an hour of your time at some point to kind of show how that's all calculated. But they basically determine how property poor or property wealthy school districts are. Right now, on average, about 60% of school funding is provided from the state. The remaining 40% is typically taxes. And we are about 50-50. So to me, that means we're a little bit more property rich than the average school district in Wisconsin. Not just residences, but also businesses, industry, and whatnot. I am projecting, and this is still tentative, we'll receive an estimate by the Department of Public Instruction here, again, by about the second week of October, probably about the week of the 14th. We will receive final information. I am estimating that our general state aid is going to be dropping slightly. And again, as we take a look at how property rich we are, and how fast our property values are growing in comparison to others across the state, and as well with some declining enrollment that we've seen, that's an indicator that to me that our general state aid will continue to slowly decline as well. Our property tax levy. So this is the actual dollar amount related to after we determine our revenue limit, we subtract out the general state aid. This is the remaining last portion. It's a pretty straightforward formula, simple arithmetic, but we are anticipating that our property tax levy, the dollar amount, will be increasing slightly. It has varied. It's highly dependent on spending, how much state aid is received in prior years, but I am estimating because we were allowed new dollars for 2019-20, that our actual dollar amount of the property tax levy will be increasing by 7.1%, which is a little bit higher than in previous years, but again, based on the new access to dollars in the limited state aid, that is something that we are estimating at this point in time. That being said, the last piece is the mill rate, which is a percentage or a taxation rate. So we essentially take our levy, which is a dollar amount, divided by our property values, and again, keeping in mind that our property values actually expanded, the base expanded. We are estimating for the 19-20 school year that our mill rate will remain flat at $7.97. We have capped out several years ago at $9.17, but as our enrollment has slowly declined and as our property values have slowly increased, that taxation rate has slowly declined as well. But I think we're being fiscally responsible. I will share some information as it relates to how we're utilizing that money in the follow-up presentation. But again, a flat taxation rate for the 2019-20 school year. I do want to share a little bit of information. I'd call this supplemental information as well as some required information that has to be a part of this meeting. So a little bit of fund balance, or what the private sector typically calls equity. We have existing debt as well as statutory debt capacity. I will share a little bit of information on that. It's a requirement that we share what our contributions as well as our fund balance for our other post-employment benefit trust. I'm going to be sharing a little bit of information about our programs related to community services, both the programs as well as costs within that fund. And then as well, I'm just going to be kind of leading out of this meeting, or this portion of the meeting, with just a few estimates and assumptions and sharing what that might then look like for the October 28th meeting. So fund balance, or equity, is what it's typically referred to. It's seen by debt agencies as a sign of financial health when you have an appropriate level, not too much, not too little. It is governed by board policy number 646, which specifically says that we will have enough fund balance where we will try to minimize, if not even not have, any short-term borrowing, so we have appropriate cash flow, revenues in, expenditures out. And then as well, we are a self-funded school district for both our health insurance as well as our dental, so we must maintain an appropriate level of fund balance to have it as a self-funded health insurance reserve, which we do. The final piece of the board policy, 646, says that we will have a range of 14 to 18% fund balance, and I will share what that is in just a moment. We did short-term borrow in 2018-19. We had a line of credit. We did tap into that over a weekend, literally for a period of a few days. We do not believe that we actually needed that because we did maintain an appropriate level of fund balance or cash flow at that point in time. So what does next year look like as we look at fund balance? We do anticipate, due to the deficit that we had in 18-19, that we will need and actually utilize a line of credit in 2019-20. Our current fund balance is sitting at 18.5%. I take our general fund and our special education fund, put those together, and use that as the variable, the denominator for our fund balance, but we're sitting at 18.5% as of July 1st. I do anticipate as of June 30th of 2020, since we have a balanced budget, that will remain the same at about 18.5% unless something impedes upon that. That 18.5% does include, and I'd like to be very open about this, we've had discussions at the board meeting, at board meetings, that does include a Jackson trust of $1.5 million. It was 2.25. We purchased $750,000 worth of property this year, so there's a remaining fund balance within our general fund of $1.5 million. That's labeled as a reserved equity account within our general fund. We do have debt service funds. We have capital projects funds. Jackson Trust is within our general fund within a designated fund balance account. Our audited fund balance classifications, and this is one of the last pieces that we typically do as we wrap up our audit. So I said October. It is possible when we have our audit report, we would be bringing forward the different classifications, which is the undesignated, the reserved, all of those different areas along with the dollar amount. Essentially what that does is it tells the district and it tells the taxpayer and the financial institutions how we're planning on either spending or holding those equity or those fund balance amounts. Just a little bit of information about the district from a financial standpoint. We are rated by Standard & Poor's. That was several years ago as a part of a debt refinance. We're currently a AA negative. It's considered within the top 3 or the top tier of S&P's rating matrix. That's a sign of financial health. We are considered a strong financially rated school district, and as I'd mentioned, related to that fund balance, it's important to maintain an appropriate level of fund balance for stability, but it's not just the school district, it's actually also some of the local economies and how we're doing with our businesses in the area, and not just that, but then also what's happening at our local governments between our cities, villages, municipalities, as well as the county level. So when we receive that AA negative rating, it's not just us, it's really us as a whole, as a community. This next matrix is something that I've shared, I believe, twice now with the school board at previous meetings. Our district's current debt as of July 1st, 2019, we have non-referendum, which is debt that the board has authorization to enter into. We have referendum debt, which is where we go to the constituents of the district as a vote. So we have referendum and non-referendum debt, principal only, of approximately $33.5 million. Above and beyond that, because that debt has assigned interest rates, we have an additional $4.3 million of interest. Again, referendum and non-referendum debt. So total principal and interest of $37.9 million as it stands right now. We have defeased debt, which essentially means we've levied for it in the past 3 years, totaling $5.9 million. Those monies are being held in an interest-bearing account, and when debt is able to be paid, we would be able to incur, we would essentially be able to settle that debt. So when I take a look at really what our outstanding principal and interest is as of today, it's closer to $32 million. Okay. Above and beyond that, though, in the 2019-20 budget, and please remember that the $5.9 million defeasance has come the last 3 years. We have, while we've maintained that same mill rate of $7.97, I've allowed for that to happen. We've had board discussion about it, and we believe that we have an allowance of up to $3.15 million without increasing the mill rate or the taxation rate in the 2019-20 school year. So as we take a look at what that means, the 5.9 plus 3.15, literally we have approximately $9 million of the 37 already paid off, and it's just being held in an interest-bearing account right now. A little bit of other post-employment benefit trusts. So this is our Fund 73. It is not in the handout. We will not be talking about it, but there is a requirement to share this information this evening. As of July 1st of 2018, we had almost $2.9 million in this fund as equity or fund balance. In 2018-19, we did have revenues, contributions between retiree payments as well as a contribution from the district of $1.45 million. We had expenditures in this fund or this trust of almost $1.5 million, and that's truly based on the retirees that are covered under these plans and their actual claims since we're self-insured. Those expenditures are directly billed to this fund against the expenditures, leaving just shy, literally within about $50,000, just shy of $2.8 million within this fund. So fund balance, it does fluctuate again based on how much money the district contributes into the fund, how much the retirees pay towards their coverage, as well as how much those claims for both health and dental are incurred. Financial standards and tests, there is a DPI, Department of Public Instruction requirement. We do meet the standards to continue using this fund. And then as well, there's a requirement to have a biennial actuarial study done. That is a requirement. We do have a current study. We're just entering into year 2 of the current study. Community Service Fund, this is our Fund 80. These are things what I call outside of the typical school day. So a social studies class is a part of a typical school day. You could not charge textbooks to Fund 80. It's anything outside of a normal school day. Could still be within the school hours, just outside of a typical school day. The programs that we have in this are Badger Middle School co-curricular activities, approximately $93,000 expenses budgeted. We have our school resource officers, and again, we've had discussions with the school board about this and being able to move this from our general fund into our community services fund. This is a contract with the city for the current year of $170,000 for our school resource officers. We do have before and after school offerings to students. This is something that we've begun expanding just a little bit. We do have some partnerships with Boys and Girls Club, the city, and the YMCA. Approximately $52,000 is budgeted. And then as well, we do have individuals who use our facilities where we waive fees. They fall under a typical classification where they're not charged to use our facilities. We do budget for that in our community services fund, approximately $5,000. Total expenditures, total revenues anticipated of $320,000 for the year. I would like to point out, though, as we look at the middle school co-curricular offerings, to have this be a part of our community services fund, we do have to offer this to both homeschoolers as well as private school students. I know that we have done that in the past, and I'll make sure that we work with Badger Middle School to make sure that that is communicated appropriately. Our school resource officers, as I indicated, this is new to Fund 80. It is allowable within the fund. And what we have to do to maintain this is extend learning opportunities to private schools, not necessarily make them available to respond to incidences, but just allow them to be a part of those communities as well and improve upon their school safety and whatnot. In summary, I was told never to say in summary, but in summary for this portion of the budget presentation, again, we're presenting a balanced budget per board directive within our general fund. Other funds do have fluctuations. They have uses where they're a deficit as well as a surplus, appropriate, totally appropriate, but it's based on anticipated activity with a spend plan for that. We have identified all revenues and expenditures as of today. If there's something that we're aware of, we've identified it, we've budgeted appropriately. When we talk about the meeting here in a couple minutes, when I will go over the actual publication, you're going to notice that there's going to be some dollar amounts that have been flipped a little bit. This is what we call our chart of accounts. We have a 24-digit strand of numbers that essentially says who, what, where, and why. We're changing that around a little bit more to meet both federal, state requirements, but then also to code things in our chart of accounts a little bit more appropriately to more directly reflect how we're spending those monies. You're going to actually see a little bit more of instructional dollars being budgeted because we need to reflect that within our budget, and this includes some of that activity. I have included a mill rate being, again, flat, same as it was in 19 school year, fiscal year of $7.97. I think that's very important to reiterate. And then not only that, but we're actually going to be taking a look at the 2020-21 budget. We're going to begin that process as soon as November, if not in November, certainly December. But we want to take a look at what that looks like. We're a part of a biennial state budget at this point in time. So let's plan appropriately, look ahead, and see what we can do about maximizing an opportunity. As I indicated, I'm going to share just a little bit of a informational packet at this point in time, and I do have that budget publication. It's a two-sided handout. I'll have that on the big screen. But board members, please feel free to stay where you are right now. After that, then the board will come back up to the table and we'll have a hearing and discussion where members of the community can share information. If you could please please fill out a yellow card that has your name, your address, and then you're certainly welcome to have 3 minutes to share some information, any questions, comments that you might have specific to the budget. This is, again, something that was published twice in our local newspaper. It takes everything by fund, which, again, is we have our chart of accounts. It takes, and I hope you guys are okay if I'm kind of highlighting, pointing out, but essentially takes those fund balances from 2 years ago, last year, and then the current year. We did end up spending approximately $2 million of fund balance in the 2018-19 school year. We had a $1.5 million budgeted deficit. That actual reality was only $1.25 million, so we did outperform the budget. However, as I'd mentioned, we did purchase the land for Jackson, a future Jackson Elementary of $750,000, totaling the $2 million. However, as you can see for the 2019-20 budget, we do have again, a balanced budget. The revenues and other financing sources, that's essentially how we're receiving the money. That's the money from both local sources, which the primary area for that is our property taxes. As you can see, we do have a slight increase in our property taxes. Fairly steady, again, representing the decrease in the state aid. We were allowed the additional monies, so since our state aid is declining, the last piece to account for that is through property taxes. As we take a look then at our state sources, this is that large piece of state aid, and again, we're approximately 50% funded from the state. Total revenues for the district, $72 million between our general fund. Slight decrease compared to 2018-19, primarily because we have fewer students that we're going to be educating, even though we were allowed a slight increase in our revenue limit for the year. Expenditures, and this is a large portion, as you take a look at our instructional area, we do see a fairly large jump in that because we see a fairly significant decrease. And we did make actual real cuts to this year's budget in comparison to last year to bring forward the balanced budget, but a large majority of the increase that we're going to see is that we have moved more money towards an instructional. These are dollars that are directly attributed that get to the classroom. Where I'd like to say that support services are still things that directly impact student learning, they're not direct classroom dollars. We did see a significant decrease in that, again, because we've moved monies to the instructional area. Non-program transfers are where we move money from one fund to the next. A large piece of that is that we don't receive enough funding for our special ed programs that we offer our students. That amount is slightly increasing, but it takes up a large portion of that, as well as moving money into our post-employment benefit trust and other areas and other funds. Again, total revenues and expenditures do balance at the $71.9 million. Special projects funds, this is our special education. We also have a small gift fund, which is run at our schools, as well as we are actually a Head Start recipient, fairly rare for that to happen within a school district. We have about $1 million of Head Start money. Total activity for this is anticipated to be about $12.2 million, fairly consistent with the prior year because that small decrease from last year to this year, we're still appropriating, we're still allocating monies out to fully match what our revenues are. So I anticipate by October 28th that will be finalized, and these two numbers between last year at 12.7 and this year at 12.2, those will balance at an appropriate level. Debt service funds is where we actually pay for our debt, and this is where, as you see, an increase of our ending year fund balance over the last 3 years because we've been defeasing debt. Those are those monies that are sitting in interest-bearing account. Any expenditures that you see are essentially because of debt payment schedules, and so as we look this year, we have an anticipated $4.3 million of debt that we'll be paying, with the balance then being the defeased debt for future debt payments. Capital projects funds, these are where we've had discussions with our Fund 41, Fund 46, monies that are put into these funds that have to be used for capital projects specific to facilities. So we do typically deposit monies into these accounts, and sometimes we spend them depending on the spend plan. As we work with our building and grounds department, we have actually built up a fairly large fund balance, which is for our Fund 46, and that will be used at some point in time for some type of facilities related project. And really what this is to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible towards our facilities. $2.5 million sitting anticipated revenues and $1.5 million of expenditures and revenues, and we do have a fairly flat fund balance of approximately $3 million. Nutritional services, these are our lunches, breakfasts that we serve to our students. They have an appropriate level of fund balance. This is actually determined by the Department of Public Instruction. They do have about a $2.5 million budget both on the revenue and expenditure side. We serve thousands of meals every day. And so this activity captures all of those meals that we serve our students. Community Services Fund, that was that slide that I shared towards the end of the presentation. $260 of anticipated levy, which is our revenue. We do have $320,000 of expenditures. That is a purposeful deficit because we have a fund balance of approximately $212,000, and we have a 3-year spend it down plan of that fund balance. So we're going to be spending approximately a third of that each of the next 3 years. This is the activity. There is a noticeable increase. It's for those programs and services for students outside of the typical school day. So as we take a look, when we take a look at our total budget, we are approaching a $100 million budget. We have a $92 million. We do remove any transfers from one fund to the next, which is approximately $7 million. So when we take a look at unduplicated, or just what our straight up dollar amount is, we're approximately an $85 million company. That's how I see us. That is just a little bit less than a 1% decrease than last year. We were allowed additional monies, however, we're educating fewer students. That's why we're seeing a slight decrease in our total expenditures. Property tax, so these are what we're levying, the dollar amount. In comparison to prior years, we are consistent, a slow increase, again, based on our property values. And we'll be levying approximately $41 million. That's about $2.7 million more than last year, again, because we're receiving less state aid. And then that translates specific to the mill rate, or the taxation rate, is that we're going to be seeing a flat at this point in time, and we're going to do everything in our control to be able to maintain that flat mill rate of $7.97. that's based on $1,000 of assessed value of a property on average across the district of that $5.2 billion. That does conclude my presentation. I'd like to invite the board back up to the stage, and if we'd like to begin questions, comments. That was 40 minutes. 35, 30?
I wasn't timing you, you're okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
I do not have any participation slips, but if there is anyone in the crowd who would like to address the board, I'd ask that you come forward to the microphone and state your name and address. Going once, going twice? Okay, then I am looking for a motion to adjourn this portion of the budget hearing.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. All right. All right, I have lost my other slip, but we'll go with this. Oh, here it is, sorry. Okay. This is the public meeting of the electors of the West Bend Joint School District Number 1. More than 24 hours prior to this meeting, notice of the time, place, date, and subject matter of this meeting was posted in each school building, the entrance doors at the Education Service Center, and at the West Bend Community Memorial Library. A copy was also sent to the Daily News, WBKV, the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and other media sources that have requested notice of our meetings. Deb, would you please confirm this was posted properly?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. If you'd all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have some lengthy ground rules that I'll be reading to you. The following procedures have been developed in order to provide an orderly process for conducting the business of the annual meeting of the electors. Number 1, non-resident and non-voting attendees should declare themselves at registration and sit in their designated non-resident/non-voting section. Members of the electorate should register prior to the start of the meeting and sit in the area reserved for members. Number 2, the business of the annual meeting and motions, resolutions is restricted to a narrow set of topics by the Wisconsin Statute 120.10 and provided in public notice of the meeting. All discussion should pertain to the motions/resolutions offered in the public notice. Number 3, only those eligible to vote are eligible to discuss a debatable motion that is pending before the electorate. Members who have signed up to discuss a motion/resolution should proceed to line up at the nearest microphone, wait to be recognized by the chair, and state their name and official address before addressing the chair. Comments should pertain to the motion/resolution and should not be about other persons. Number 4, persons eligible to vote must be a citizen of the United States, 18 years of age or older, and a resident of the district for at least 10 days before this meeting. That is pertinent to Section 6.02 of the Wisconsin statutes. If a person is challenged as to his or her qualifications to vote, the chair shall state the qualifications for voting to the challenged person. If the challenge is not withdrawn, the chair shall administer an oath and affirmation to the challenged person. Number 5, members will be allowed up to 3 minutes to comment on a motion/resolution. A member will not be afforded a second opportunity to comment until all members wishing to discuss the motion have had an initial opportunity to do so. The chair will make a best effort to afford everyone an equal opportunity. Number 6, every member wishing to discuss a motion should be afforded the opportunity to do so without interruption. Attendees at the meeting should not interrupt a person who is speaking. And number 7, once discussion of the motion is closed, the motion will be restated to the electorate and a vote of the members will be taken. Those members in favor of the motion will be asked to stand and be counted. After those members are seated, members against the motion will be asked to stand and be counted. If a division of the assembly is specifically requested and approved by a majority of the electorate, the chairperson will order that ballots be distributed to the electors and then collected and counted by tellers appointed by the chair. Okay, at this time, we are looking for a motion from anyone in the room to elect a chairperson for this meeting.
I would nominate you, Nancy, for the chair position.
I second that nomination.
I would accept that nomination. All members in favor of that nomination? Oh, sorry. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Pardon me. Okay, we'd like to now call for the vote. So all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Seeing none, the motion passes. All right. I am now looking for an approval of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that motion passes. At this time, I'd like to ask Superintendent Don Kierkegaard to please give us the state of the district report.
Thank you, Madam President. It was decided earlier that Andy and I would each take 25 minutes, and since he took 40, I'm going to concede 15 of my 25 to Andy, and so I'll go relatively quickly. And so, Andy, thank you for an outstanding presentation on the budget. I think you answered all of our questions. It's an opportunity for me to look at the state of the district, and this is the 100th anniversary of our annual meeting, and so we're in good company. If you look at this slide, it's also the 100th anniversary of the Grand Canyon National Park. It is the 100th anniversary of the Ring telephone and the 100th anniversary of the pop-up toaster, so we're in good company. This is the start of my second year in the district, and I've been so impressed with the many great things that happen in the district. And so to start with, we talk a little bit about our K-4 program, our Head Start program, and our early childhood program. West Bend is unique in that our K-4 program is a community-based program. Rather than all the kids come to the school, we take the school to several different spots within our community. I believe we have 9 different sites for a community-based program, and we use the best of the best, and it truly is a growing program and provides quality instruction to our youngest kids who benefit the most. In addition, Washington County Head Start program has been centered in the West Bend School District for many years. It is a growing program. It is at or near capacity every year, and it truly provides resources and opportunities for kids who really benefit from those resources. Our elementary program is designed to provide positive interventions and support programs to our elementary schools, making a difference in strengthening the students for the whole school. At our middle school, Silverbrook and Badger. Silverbrook is our intermediate school. It is a school that is designed to provide kids with a unique variety of opportunities, whether it's the 3 different foreign languages that we provide, the many clubs and activities, or just a well-rounded education. Silverbrook provides a setting as the home to almost 1,000 students, but within that 1,000 students, we have different homes. We have different, I lost my term, different groups within it. So rather than a big school of 1,000, we have different smaller schools to give more of a one-on-one attention to each of our kids. That's also true with Badger. And so Badger is our 7th and 8th grade school. It has close to 1,000 kids, 950 students. The same concept is that rather than one large 7th and 8th grade, we have homes for 5 or 6 different groups with the 7th grade, 5 or 6 for the 8th grade, and it's more of a one-on-one setting. The Badger provides an opportunity for our kids to be prepared and well ready for high school as they start the high school at East and West. When we go to the high school, we're obviously a unique setting. We have 2 buildings within one, but within that high school setting, we have the opportunity to provide countless opportunities for our students, both in the area of CTE as well as in humanities, in fine arts, in in the humanities, in our AP classes. We offer as many AP classes as almost any in the state, and so we really are proud of the many things that happen at our high school. We have excellent community support as well. Last year, both West Bend Mutual as well as Delta Defense provided us with sizable contributions to help with our weight room. We had a sizable contribution from Aurora Health in the form of helping us with our training room. And so we continue to look to our business and community partners for considerable contribution support for our district. As we look at the last slide, it looks at the sunset. And I look at the fact that we are now ending the first 100 years of our annual meetings, but it's just the beginning of what's to come. And so I have great optimism for what's going to happen in the future. We have the opportunity to take a good school district and make it great. We will continue to use our quality teachers as a key element in the success of our district. One of our main goals is to attract and maintain quality employees throughout the school district. We have had continued opportunities to expand our CTE programs. We have a commitment to close the student performance gap, a commitment to safety in our schools, both for our staff as our visitors, as well as throughout the entire district. This year we added a 4th resource officer to help with that safety concern. We continue to attract and retain quality staff members, and we will do everything we can to increase our course offerings for our students. As we go forward with the next 100 years, it's important to make sure that we don't look at the past and say, we're West Bend and we can continue to do what we've always done. We need to look at the past and make sure that we don't throw out what's working, but also that we provide a change going forward, that we can't just say that we're going to do what we've always done and expect results for the 21st century. We need to truly look at what needs to happen going forward to adjust to the times and make sure that we're providing quality education for all of our students in the school district. And so thank you, and turn it back over to Andy.
Thank you, Mr. Kierkegaard. As we move forward now, we'd like to look at the resolutions or the consideration of the proposed resolutions. I'm going to read resolution number 1 in regards to the tax levy. Resolved by the electors of the West Bend Joint School District Number 1, West Bend, Wisconsin, that there be and hereby is levied on the taxable properties within the confines of the district taxes in the amount of $41,983,435, including $7,519,623 to be applied on long-term debt obligations of the district. $1,536,455 to be applied to the Capital Projects Fund, $260,000 to be applied to the Community Service Fund, and the balance to be applied to the General Fund for the 2019-2020 school year in accordance with the recommendation of the school board. I would now open the meeting up to any discussion, questions, or comments by anyone in the audience. If you'd like to go to the microphone and again state your name and address if you have questions and comments. Going once, going twice.
Well, maybe I would like to make a comment. If no other audience member would like to make a comment first. On the first resolution, it was an excellent presentation, Andy. Thank you for that. Andy is new to the district, as he said. We are very fortunate to have him as the finance director here. He's a top-notch finance director in the state of Wisconsin and just a wonderful person to oversee our finances, and already has found many avenues of savings and appropriate coding that he is embarking on. I'd like to make two comments regarding the resolutions, one on the mill rate and one on the debt ratio that we're paying off. The mill rate, as Andy said, was $7.97. The state average last year, if I remember right from a previous presentation Andy did, was $9.41. So at $7.97, we are about $1.50 under the state average. There's 420 school districts in the state, so our mill rate is in probably the lower 40 of the total 420 school districts in the state. So as a taxpayer, it's phenomenal that we're fortunate, one, live in a good economy and a good property tax base as we live in here, but overseeing the finances of the districts to provide an excellent educational opportunity and all the support systems and keep our mill rate that low. I just wanted to point that out. Regarding the debt ratio at 32 million that Andy shared, we are the lowest debt ratio in the county, one of the lowest in the state. If you divide 32 million by 5 billion in property tax. So again, look at the 400 and some districts and look at the debt ratio. That's why, again, we contribute to our AA+ rating. So I just had to make those two comments as a taxpayer on the financial aspect of the district. Thank you.
So according to our ground rules, it looks like I read the resolution one more time and then ask for the vote. Okay. All right, I'll read it again. Resolution number 1, tax levy. Resolved by the electors of the West Bend Joint School District Number 1, West Bend, Wisconsin, that there be and hereby is levied on the taxable properties within the confines of the district taxes in the amount of $41,983,435, including $7,519,623 to be applied on long-term debt obligations of the district. $1,536,455 to be applied to the Capital Projects Fund, $260,000 to be applied to the Community Services Fund, and the balance to be applied to the General Fund for the 2019-2020 school year in accordance with recommendation of the school board. All those in favor, I'd ask you to stand and be counted at this time. What? Oh, pardon. Whoops. I need a formal motion on that. Hit it, Paul.
I move to accept resolution number 1 on the tax levy.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, now, all those in favor, please stand. Deb's doing her counting. We're okay. Okay, so those of you, please have a seat that were for. Anyone against this resolution, please stand at this time to be counted. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to resolution number 2. Resolution number 2, the disposal of district property. Be it resolved that the school district of West Bend Joint School District Number 1 is hereby authorized during the school year to sell or dispose of any property belonging to and not needed by the school district, provided, however, the sale of any individual piece of property whose estimated value is more than $5,000 shall require specific independent authorization by the school board, and provided further that the maximum aggregate value of all property sold without specific independent authorization by the school board shall not exceed $20,000 during the current fiscal year. Anyone with questions or comments or looking for discussion, please come to the microphone at this time. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for resolution number 2.
I move to accept resolution number 2 pertaining to the disposal of district property.
I second that.
All those in favor, please stand to be counted for resolution number 2. Please take a seat. Anyone against resolution number 2, please stand at this time. All right, moving on to resolution number 3, board member compensation. Resolved by the electors of the West Bend Joint School District Number 1, West Bend, Wisconsin, that the salaries of the elected members of the school board of the West Bend Joint School District Number 1, West Bend, Wisconsin, be fixed at the sum of $2,500 per year per member and $2,600 per year per officer. Be it further resolved by the electors of the West Bend Joint School District Number 1 that board members be paid their actual and necessary expenses in traveling outside the school district in the performance of duties, including mileage at the rate established from time to time by board policy, which rate shall not be greater than the maximum amount allowed by the Internal Revenue Service as a business deduction, and that when duties require school board members to be absent from regular employment, they may be reimbursed for actual loss of earnings in an amount per day as established from time to time by board policy. At this time, I'd ask anyone to come forward to the microphone who would like to discuss or has questions or would like to comment on this resolution. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to proceed with resolution number 3.
I move to approve resolution number 3.
I'll second resolution number 3. All those in favor, please stand to be counted. Please be seated, and anyone against resolution number 3, please stand at this time. All right, resolution number 4, the 2020-2021 annual meeting date. Resolved by the electors of the West Bend Joint School District Number 1, West Bend, Wisconsin, that the 2020/2021 annual meeting date be set at 7 p.m. on Monday, September 28th, 2020. Anyone looking to, I'm sorry, that was a lot of 20s in there. Anyone looking to discuss, question, or comment on that, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I move to accept resolution number 4.
Second.
All those in favor, please stand to be counted. Please have a seat. Anyone against resolution number 4, please stand at this time. All right. Well, thank you all for coming this evening. I would now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. And we are adjourned. Thank you.